Before we start today's video, we are less than 2 weeks away from the season opener for the Chiefs against the Lions. So like this video if you're excited for the 2023 NFL season to start. Welcome to the Chiefs Report. My name is Jace Andrews, and on today's show, ESPN broke down their 53-man roster prediction as the deadline for the cuts is tomorrow. Today, we are going to go through every single player that made the cut. Let's start off first with the quarterbacks. This one, a pretty obvious choice with number 1 at Patrick Mahomes. Behind him, Blaine Gabbert and Shane Buechele. These three, not too surprising. I will say, though, the QB that was cut, Chris Oladokun, he played well in Week 3 of the preseason. He looked pretty good in Week 2. Week 1 was an absolute disaster. But I would say don't be surprised to see Oladokun maybe on the practice squad, maybe with a different team. He has a future. I would like to think it could be with the Chiefs, but right now he just doesn't fit into the mixture in terms of the 53-man roster. Could be a practice squad guy just to keep for depth. Let's move on to the second position today, and that is running back. We go from the top to bottom: Isiah Pacheco, Jerick McKinnon, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and La'Mical Perine. The only difference here is La'Mical Perine in that 4th spot, because Deneric Prince and Jaron Ely were both cut. Deneric Prince was the one who originally had that 4 spot about a month ago in the first ESPN projection, and now La'Mical Perine has jumped in and taken that spot due to his ability to not only catch the ball, but also run with really efficient feet. He did really well against the Browns in the final preseason game, getting a touchdown with a catch, and then rushing as well for over 35 yards. Now, I will say the one guy to watch is Clyde Edwards-Helaire because his days are numbered. I don't really know what's going to happen with him. I don't see him being on this Chiefs squad for the entire year. He could be traded. He could be cut. I don't know, but I want to know what you think, because do you think that CEH is going to get traded? Do you think he's going to get cut? Type T for trade, type C for cut. I don't see a way that he's going to stay on this team, so put it in the comments, T for trade, C for cut, on what you want to see the Chiefs do with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Let's move to probably the most notable position of them all, wide receivers, and I'll kind of get into why they're notable here in a moment, but the top 4, I don't think this is too much of a surprise: Kadarius Toney, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Skyy Moore, and then Rashee Rice. Those 4, pretty obvious 4 that you're not going to kind of argue. Now, the next 3, this is where it can kind of get tricky. The first one is Justin Watson. He's been a favorite target for Patrick Mahomes since he's arrived here with the Chiefs, and he's really liked on special teams. He's a guy who can kind of do a lot of stuff, so ESPN has him in the 53-man roster. Behind him, it's Richie James, the former New York Giant, now here with the Chiefs. They're saying he's going to make the 53-man roster, and then the final guy that they're going to have is Justyn Ross. He'll be the 7th and final receiver to make the 53-man roster. I think this is how it could go, but a notable cut, Ihmir Smith-Marsette. He looked insane in both the Arizona preseason game and the Cleveland preseason game. Taking a look at Ross and ISM stats, ISM looks really, really good, probably better than Ross. The only difference is Ross was a notable name since training camp, and he has been a favorite target of Patrick Mahomes, which we've seen with Justin Watson can get you a spot on this roster. I think, though, both of them deserve a spot. They both played well in the preseason. Now, I know you only want 7 wide receivers on this squad, so I think the decision has got to be James or Watson to get cut. I don't know who it would be, but I do think that Ross and Ihmir Smith-Marsette both deserve a spot on the 53-man roster. Let's move to the tight end position. Travis Kelce, Noah Gray, and Blake Bell. For the most part, this is kind of expected. Kelce obviously going to be the premier wide receiver in terms of passing for Patrick Mahomes, but I think the one guy that was maybe a notable cut was Matt Bushman, because he was a guy that kind of looked to be on the squad earlier in the preseason. He had a chance. I got to be honest. He had a chance, but he fumbled it last week. There was a pass, hit him right in the chest, right in the hands, bounced right off him, and immediately went into a defender's hands. Boom, interception, pick 6, and that may have cost him his spot. I know he had a touchdown catch in the second half, but that could have really made the difference between making the roster and not being on there. Could see a practice squad opportunity for him. Before we continue, I got to tell you about a deal. We got Chiefs tees here on fanatics. They're almost 50% off, and with the season being just under 2 weeks away, you want some new Chiefs gear to get you ready for the 2023 season. So go to fanaticschatsports.com/ChiefsTV, and you can get this shirt for almost 50% off. It's really stylish. I think I'm going to get one for myself. I'll maybe wear that on game 1 against the Lions. All right, moving on here. Let's go to the line here. The first guy, the top 10 here, not many notable names are being cut. I think the big one is Darian Kinnard, because last year he was a guy who played his way onto the squad in week 3 of the preseason and throughout practice. So I think he's going to be a really close cut, but he's a guy that ESPN says he's not going to make it. And I kind of agree with them just because of the depth position at offensive line. Now, from the offensive line, let's go to the defensive line, where there are, I'm not going to say questions, just maybe some things that you got to have in mind. Karlaftis is going to be the guy you're going to lean on. Behind him, you have Tershawn Wharton, and then obviously the rookie, Felix Anudike-Uzomah, and Keandre Coburn may be the starting defensive tackle because, well, Chris Jones is the question mark there on what's going to happen. To note, Jones and Omenihu both exempt from this roster. Omenihu is going to come in after week 6, so somebody will have to be cut when Charles Omenihu comes back. And then if Chris Jones ever signs, that will be another cut that will have to be made whenever that happens, hopefully soon. But without Jones and Omenihu, this line needs help. There needs to be something done on the Chiefs side. Either sign a defensive tackle, go out and trade for a defensive tackle. You really need somebody to try and fill this line because Karlaftis is going to help on the edge, but you really need a defensive force in the interior. And if you don't have Jones, that's going to be tough. So you really need to try and go get somebody. So what do you think? Do the Chiefs sign a defensive tackle? Type S for sign, type P for pass. I think it's an S all the way. I'm spamming the S's in the comments because you need somebody to bolster up that defensive line if you really want to put yourself in a position to win the Super Bowl. I think the Chiefs offense, they're right there. But to get to the Super Bowl, that's one thing. To win it, you need that defensive presence, and that is what we're kind of waiting on here for the Chiefs to do. Right now, it doesn't look like they have that defensive line presence besides Karlaftis. I think they can get that if they sign really just a veteran guy at this point. More into the defense, let's go to the linebackers. Nick Bolton, Willie Gay Jr., Leo Chenal. He did have a little bit of an injury. Do want to point out that Andy Reid said he would be all right for the season opener regarding anything that maybe could come up. Drew Tranquill and Jack Cochran both on the 53 as well. So overall, linebacker room, pretty solid. The one guy that I think is missing, Cam Jones. I think he deserves a spot. He played really well throughout the preseason, and at the end of his time in the Browns game, he got a little bit of a, let's say a tough shot. Went into the tent, and he came out. According to Andy Reid, he was fine. Just a little bit of maybe a tough blow that he came right back for him. I think he deserves a spot on this roster. He played really well throughout the preseason. He's a young guy. Maybe just give him a chance, see what happens. But as of right now, he's not on that 53-man slot. Let's go to the cornerback room. L'Jarius Sneed, Trent McDuffie, Josh Williams, Jalen Watson, and then Nick Jones behind him. This is a pretty solid room, top to bottom. I don't think there's any necessarily amazing guys. McDuffie and Sneed are going to be your two guys you're going to lean on a lot. But there's not really somebody who I think is down. The notable cut, DiCaprio Bootle. Surprise, surprise. Not really. I don't think he saved a season with that interception against the Browns on the preseason week 3. He looked good, and he had a pass deflection. Obviously, mentioned that interception, and he didn't get burned at all. But Bootle's going to get the boot. I got to be honest. He just didn't have a good preseason at all until that final game. Didn't look good in practice. Didn't look good in the first 2 preseason games. And I don't think he looked amazing in Game 3. He just had an interception is the ultimate thing. All right, are you subscribed? You should, though, if you're not. Chiefs 53-man roster news and rumors. Turn on the notifications to make sure you never miss a video. Obviously, tomorrow we have the roster cut deadline at 4 p.m. Eastern. We'll have all the news right here. So make sure you're subscribed and turn on notifications so you have that video ready to go tomorrow. Moving to the safety position. Again, not a lot of surprises here. The one guy I do like on this roster that I think, or at least on the safety position, is Shamari Connor. He played really well throughout the preseason, and he could honestly get some playing time. Young guy, he looked well. I think he's going to need a couple of games to maybe settle in as maybe a depth player for the first couple of games. But by the end of the season, I would not be surprised if Shamari Connor comes out here and impresses a lot of people. Now, the last one we're going to look at here, the last 3, Harrison Butker, the kicker, Tommy Townsend, the punter, and James Winchester for the long snapper. No surprises there. Butker, one of the top 3 kickers in the NFL, maybe top 2. Tommy Townsend, an obvious choice there. Guys who have been on the squad for multiple years. Overall, no surprises as per the usual with special teams. Subscribe to the Chiefs Report, youtube.com/ChiefsD. Again, tomorrow is the 53-man roster deadline, so be sure you're here tomorrow for all the news and rumors and breakdowns of what exactly happens here on the Chiefs Report.